The timeline lists events in the external environment that have influenced events in human history. This timeline is for use with the article on environmental determinism, for the history of humanity's influence on the environment, and humanity's perspective on this influence. See Timeline of the history of environmentalism. See List of periods and events in climate history for a timeline list focused on climate. Pre-Holocene. The time from roughly 15,000 to 5,000 BC was a time of transition and swift and extensive environmental change, as the planet was moving from an ice age towards an interstadial. Sea levels rose dramatically, land that was depressed by glaciers began lifting up again, forests and deserts expanded, and the climate gradually became more modern. In the process of warming up, the planet saw several cold snaps and warm snaps, such as the older Dryas and the Holocene climatic optimum, as well as heavier precipitation. In addition, the Pleistocene megafauna became extinct due to environmental and evolutionary pressures from the changing climate. This marked the end of the Quaternary extinction event, which was continued into the modern era by humans. The time around 11,700 years ago is widely considered to be the end of the Old Age and the beginning of the modern world as we know it. 10th millennium BC, 9th millennium BC, 8th millennium BC, 7th millennium BC, 6th millennium BC, 5th millennium BC, 4th millennium BC, 3rd millennium BC, 2nd millennium BC, 1st millennium BC, 1st millennium AD, 1st century, 2nd century, 3rd century, 4th century, 5th century, 6th century, 7th century, 8th century, 9th century, 10th century, 2nd millennium, 11th century, 12th century, 13th century, 14th century, 15th century, 16th century, 17th century, 18th century, 19th century, 20th century, 3rd millennium.